Good morning. Welcome to the Parenting Versus podcast. So it's what is it? Saturday morning. We're sitting in our backyard, enjoying the grass.
Shady arbor of sunflowers.
Yeah, sunflowers. Lots of sounds. We have an airplane circling, some birds and trees, but
Birds and trees.
Birds and trees.
Birds and trees and airplanes.
But it's a nice morning.
It is. What is that?
That's a fire truck.
Do you remember when the kids were little? The boys were little specifically, and like every time a fire truck would pass, we had this habit of being like, fire truck.
Yeah.
I like still do that. Even if I'm alone in my car, I'm like, fire truck. It's so dumb.
Yeah. But yeah, this is our first podcast in a really long time. We basically recorded an entire episode and lost it due to twice. Yeah, due to software problems on this recording device that I've got.
There was an update to the recording app, and I don't know. We lost really good content twice, and it's a bummer because it was good. It was like probably the best we've done in a while, and it was just like, all down the shitter.
Mm-hmm. But the last podcast we recorded was in May, I believe, in a park in Portland. We've since moved away from Portland. We're now back in Albuquerque.
Apparently we're living through the apocalypse. Good God.
Yeah, something's happening. Airplanes and fire trucks. And yeah, that airplane right there is just circling.
Yeah, it's been doing that for like the last 3 days. It's been doing that. I think they're doing some kind of flight training. It's always interesting in Albuquerque, too, because you have like...
That's what happens when you have two people who are just totally distracted. Like, airplane. Let's talk about airplanes.
And then there's like noise over there. Like, I don't know. There's just so many sounds. Did you guys miss the Albuquerque noise? Because in Portland, I feel like we didn't have the same...
I don't know. We lived in the Badlands of Portland, so...
The Portland Badlands. In the hood, one might call it.
We lived east of I-215, so...
We lived in...
Is it 215? Yeah. It's not 225.
Yeah. Wow, it's
or
been
205.
That long, huh?
Jeez. We lived east of that big road where nobody likes to talk about.
You know, it's funny when you say 205. There's this commercial that pops into my head from childhood about Mall 205 in Portland. Like, literally, it was like, east of Mall 205. And it was like, I remember this ad, like, as a child. And it was always like, east of Mall 205. And I just, like, I'm like, okay, what the hell does that mean? Like, I'm a kid. I don't understand this.
Right.
But it's still in there. it's
marketing.
It's
brain. Good. Yeah, we lived close to the Ron Tonkin dealership, if that gives you an idea.
The bright, glimmering lights of Ron Tonkin. Oh my gosh. I like have all these images flashing through my head right now of driving down that street. I saw a street fight one time. I saw two people like ready to throw down, and I was like in my car and I'm like rolling the windows up. Like, should I like record this? I don't know. This looks like it could get crazy. You know, one time I saw like a giant police barricade over by Ron Tonkin. It was not my favorite area for sure.
Yeah. And I'm new to Portland. I was new to Portland, and I remember Googling an ATM location because I needed to get cash for something. I can't remember. And I went to the ATM, and like the guts of the ATM were just like ripped out and totally like destroyed.
That doesn't even like surprise me anymore. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
So I looked for the most closest, the second most closest branch, and I'm like, hey, and I told the guys over there. I was like, your ATM over here on this location is just completely destroyed. I'm like, oh, yeah, we know about that.
You're like, cool. Neat story, guys. What are you going to do about it? I missed the Russian bakery, actually.
Oh, yeah.
There was a Russian bakery close to our house, and I would sometimes, a lot. I would stop a lot.
They had good baked goods.
Yeah, they also had these, like, boozy chocolates that I bought at Christmas time. It was like expensive, and I was like, why is this box of chocolates like $20?
It's because it has a shot of vodka in each.
No, it was literally like it had booze in it, and I didn't realize it. So I was like, I opened it up and I took a bite of one. I was gonna give one to all the kids, like as a treat, and I like smelled it and I was like, don't eat that. And like, I like had to grab the chocolate for my kids, and they were just like, what the? They were so bummed out, and I was like, that has alcohol in it.
Yeah.
And they were just like, well, why would you give us chocolate with alcohol? I'm like, I didn't do it on purpose, you guys. This is my life, okay? Like, yeah. So we had these like boozy chocolates that were in our freezer forever.
Nice.
Russian boozy chocolate.
On that same, was that Halsey or was that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a flower shop there that I stopped at to get you flowers because I was going to try to be nice.
Thanks.
And it's this flower shop, and I'm like, oh, cool. And it looked like it had like a coffee shop inside too. So I'm like, I'll get Lindsay a latte and some flowers.
It reminded me of People's Flowers in Albuquerque, like the outside did.
Yeah, like if you're familiar with People's Flowers in Albuquerque, it's like 1960s signage or whatever. Like
it's a very like they've maintained the old school look of the building, but inside it's just a modern like flower shop. But it looks old school.
Yeah, so I walk in, and these two women are just like standing there,
making meth. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't think they're making meth, but they were putting together like arrangements, I guess. But I walked in, and then I get surprised looks like, "What are you doing here? Why are you in my flower shop?" I'm like,
tall brown man, you.
And I'm like,
you sinister.
Yeah, I just wanted to buy like a bouquet, like just whatever. And they're like, we don't have those. We don't have like bouquets of flowers. I'm like, well, you're a flower shop.
Is this not the shop for flowers?
Also, they were just like, we're not letting people in right now because of COVID.
Even though the sign always said open on the outside.
Yeah.
Like it always had like a neon, excuse me, like open sign, and it was always on. So you're like, well, this is a little deceiving, guys.
So, anyways, Portland times, Portland memories, they're gone. I mean, the memories are there, but like we're here in Albuquerque now.
We burned them down. Yeah, so here we are back in Albuquerque. We are in our little spot, our little house. I have to say, like, this is such a grown-up thing to say, but we put down sod in this backyard. Our friends are renting this house to us that they bought to be a rental, and it was completely like dirt, like as New Mexico is in a lot of houses and backyards. It's just dirt because grass takes a lot of effort.
Grass just doesn't grow. Although in Portland, I think all the grass died in the heat wave, which is sad. I mean, I don't think it died, but like, you know what I mean?
It took a hit for sure. No, so we decided to put sod in the back because, we've got kids and we are going to be here a while, and we just wanted to make it home, and our friends are giving us a good deal, and we thought like it would be nice to do something to kind of like pay them back for like doing us a huge favor. Not to mention that when we were looking for rentals, when we were coming back, there weren't any. Albuquerque is experiencing a crazy housing situation right now. I think the whole country might be, but I don't know. I say that like I know something about real estate. I don't. But Albuquerque anyway is going through this thing. It's like all of a sudden houses are selling like cash offers, like over asking, which is, it's weird for New Mexico. And so when I was looking for rentals, there just like wasn't anything really available. Birds. And so we were like, oh crap, like what are we going to do? We really don't want to have to move back and move in with our parents again and do all that fun stuff. And our friends were like, dude, we just bought a house in December that we were going to flip and turn into a rental. Do you want to rent it? And we were like, yes. So
here we are.
Thank you, Tiffany and Carlos, because you really like did us a solid. And
no, and I flies.
Birds, flies.
Yeah. I enjoy living here, like in this place. The house we had in Portland was definitely bigger. One thing I'm feeling pretty lucky that we did miss out on was that heat wave, because the house that we were renting did not have AC.
Oh, no, it would have been really, really hard.
That would have been tough. And the winters were already pretty tough in that house too, because it had these little electric heaters in each room. And Portland doesn't get super, super duper frigid, but there was a week in Portland where we had like ice storms and like trees were breaking apart. Like it was pretty crazy.
Well, but here's the craziest part is like during that week, we had been in Salt Lake City. We had to drive to Salt Lake City to meet Lorenzo's parents. We were going to switch them vehicles. So we drove all the way to Salt Lake City. It's a 10-hour drive from Portland to Salt Lake. We did it in a day, which is insane with 3 kids. I have no idea. I still don't know how we did that. Like, honestly, I'm baffled by this.
Our driving chops are pretty solid right now.
Yeah.
Especially like, I don't know, we did a lot of driving this summer. And I did even more being in Spokane. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so So we drive to Salt Lake City and we had to go through the gorge, and like it was crazy because we hit this one point in the gorge and the snow just started coming down and it was like icy and it felt like whiteout conditions, and they were like, we might shut it down, and we're like, oh my God. So we got through the gorge. We finally made it like all the way out to Pendleton. Kept going. We turned, like after we came home though, it had snowed a lot in Portland, which is, it happens, but it doesn't happen to the magnitude it did this time, really.
No, like Portland got like a foot of snow, a foot and a half of snow, something like that. And then it got a little bit warmer and kind of melted a little bit, and then it got super cold and then froze, and then there were ice storms.
Sheets of ice.
Yeah.
So as we're getting home, we're hearing that half of the city is out of power, and we were like, oh crap, okay, all right, well, are we out of power? We don't know.
We got lucky.
We got really lucky. So we get back to our house. We do have power, but because we had like, we weren't home, there was like ice on the windows. We could see our breath inside the house. It was so weird. Do you remember that? We like started cranking the fireplace like
I think
crazy.
I started a fire. Like it was really
Immediately.
cold. Immediately.
We like bundled the kids in blankets and like sat by the fire for like 2 hours until the house.
Poor Russell.
Oh my gosh. Our cat was just looking at us like, what have you done? It was weird, but I feel like, yeah, we survived a lot of crazy things in the last couple months, and it's weird to be back here now sitting in this like beautiful yard that we created.
Yeah.
You know, we have like giant sunflowers that are taller than me and Lorenzo right now, and grass that's nice and it's lush. We've been taking care of it.
And what I was going to say too is like I like living in this house. It is smaller than the Portland house, but what is really nice about it is it has appropriate heating and cooling.
Yeah.
Like the air conditioning is it's like thermostat operated, so I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about like turning it on, turning it off. That's like a thing, I don't know, we had to deal with at our last place in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And it does get really, really hot in Albuquerque. Not as hot as I think people from the Northwest think it gets. Like it's not Phoenix. Albuquerque is the highest metro in the United States, higher than Denver. So
We just need to say that again. We're higher than Denver. In case anybody had any questions about that.
So it doesn't get hot, like super hot. Like it's not like hundreds like all the time, but it does get 90s, and it's definitely really warm.
And as everybody says here, it's a dry heat, because it is. I mean, it's coming from the Pacific Northwest. Like when I first moved here, it was like we were talking about this yesterday. It probably felt hotter than it actually was, just because the heat is so.
And it's so bright.
Yeah,
there's not. I know there's flies everywhere. There's not a lot of shade compared to like Pacific Northwest.
You can see to the other side of the city if you want.
Yeah. And Albuquerque's a valley too, so you can, I mean, yeah, you could see the West Mesa. That's what they call it. Yeah. You can see from one side of the city to the other. In Portland, like you can't do that.
But so
I mean, you kind of can, I guess.
Kind of. So what I wanted to say was like, we have put in a lot of work to make this house and this backyard ours, because our friends have allowed us to do that. They're like, yeah, anything you want to do in the backyard, like feel free. And so we've really put a lot of effort into making this ours, and it feels really good. It feels really good to see how much it's progressed. You know, like when we first got here, it was just dirt and brown, and then we did the sod, and we had to water it and water it and water it like obsessively for like 2 weeks before it would like really start to take root. Now we have to mow it like every like week, which is crazy. And we have a nice little patio, and it feels like home. It's nice to be back. It's been a little weird. Lorenzo, and you can talk about this if you want and like catch people up, but Lorenzo, we moved back and then a week later he had to go for work, where he works.
At the giant retailer, and we did this in our last podcast.
I mean,
I don't know if I can say.
It rhymes with Schmamazon.
Yeah.
They sent him like a week after we moved back for training to Spokane, Washington. And originally it was supposed to be, I think, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
And they kept pushing it back and pushing it back. So it ended up being 2 months. So Lorenzo was gone for 2 months. From
the end of May to the end of July.
Yeah. I mean, you've really only been back for like 2 weeks.
I know. And then now they're sending me out again because there are more delays.
Yeah,
So
just like, oh my God. So we don't know where he's going to get sent next or for how long. They say 2 weeks, but
3 weeks probably.
okay. Okay.
But it's probably going to be.
It's probably going to be longer because they keep doing this.
Well, I don't know if it's probably going to be longer. Hopefully, it's not longer. But
I have no faith in Shmamazon right now.
But it's going to be close, they said. So I'm hoping like Colorado Springs or Phoenix.
I mean, I would never hope for Phoenix.
Well,
but
Phoenix, I would hope for Phoenix
it's
over
close.
Tulsa because I could drive home.
Tulsa.
But
Yeah,
anyways,
no
yeah.
thanks.
So
we're getting ready
craziness.
to find out like where Lorenzo's going to go again.
I'm just happy that I get to be there for Juliet's first day of kindergarten and the boys' first day of school. But their first full week of school, I'm going to be gone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so we're waiting on that to find out where he's going to go. It's weird. I feel like this is my house and Lorenzo's just visiting. Because it has been since we moved here, really. I mean, I kind of did all the unpacking and decorating and like set up, you know. I mean, we both installed the grass together. I've been maintaining the yard. Like, it's just kind of funny because it feels really weird. This dynamic that we're in right now. I don't know.
Riley, our middle guy, thinks I just have a really mean boss. Yeah. He's like, "Why is your boss making you go again?
Why is your boss so mean?" Yeah, so this center in Albuquerque hasn't opened, and it keeps hitting like roadblocks and delays. Like they keep expanding, they're waiting for equipment. There's just other things that they're like dealing with that have delayed the opening. So they have to kind of justify your paycheck at this point. You know, like they have to make you work. So they're like,
Right.
well, go to another center.
I guess on the flip side, I could be, put on leave or something, and that would have sucked.
Right. Well, if nothing else, you get to travel for free. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like, it's amazing to me the amount of effort they put into somebody who's like on the road. Like they do rental cars, they do like extended stay hotels, they do like all of your food. Like it's not like financially burdensome. I can't talk. So
Yeah.
and they fly him back like to visit halfway through like they did last time.
Fly who back?
You.
Oh.
Like they flew you back to visit, and then I went up to Spokane.
Spokane, Arizona. Yeah.
Spokane, Washington. Which was cool. I've never been to that part of the country, and I appreciated seeing something new, even if I did get super sick after coming home, which was not cool.
Yeah.
I got some kind of respiratory bug. It was terrible.
Right. So we're adjusting. We're settling in Albuquerque.
I'm like an old person.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me tell you about all my ailments.
Uncle Arthur's coming to visit.
No, that's not that. That's not how that goes. But we're adjusting and readjusting and adjusting again and trying to figure out life. I mean, aren't we always? But
Right. Well, I need some coffee.
yeah, let's take a
Pause, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back.
And we're back.
So, what else has been going on inside your head?
You sure you want to know that? Or
I know for me, like, I feel like I'm in some sort of weird, like, alternate reality. Like a...
parallel universe?
something like that. Like, my reality sometimes doesn't feel like my reality.
I feel like COVID and also just our circumstances of like whirlwind moving and moving back and all of that stuff has just contributed to this weird, like, it's like a displacement of time.
Yeah. Like, yesterday we went to eat at Vietnam 2000. And,
That is like the OG of Vietnamese food.
Right.
And it's, I feel like you have to explain this.
So Vietnam 2000 it's a long-standing Vietnamese restaurant in Albuquerque. And in about, I want to say 2005, they added a emissions test, little shack connected to the restaurant. But
Makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
get that money.
I guess.
But anyways, yeah, like I've been going there for a long time. Like I worked at Pizza Hut way back in the day delivering pizzas. Which another funny story about Pizza Hut I'll tell in a second. But like it's right by Highland High School, and yesterday we were looking for something to eat.
Well, you took me
And
there on one of our first like dates.
yeah,
Like,
well, it was like one of the only restaurants I knew about. Like,
but it was
and
good. It was like really fun. I
I
liked
used to
it.
go there a lot because I lived in the area. I worked at Pizza Hut.
I remember thinking like when you first took me there, I was like, this is either going to be super good or this is going to be terrible, and I'm never coming back here. But it was the former.
No,
So.
they're good. Good Vietnamese
Really
food.
good. Yeah.
But yeah, we stopped there. Yesterday we were looking for a place to eat with Juju, or Juliet, our youngest
Our
child.
5-year-old.
And we're sitting there, and a teacher I used to work with at the high school walked in. So yesterday it's like interesting because like these realities of mine, these lives, this life of mine.
You've lived several lives in the last. Couple months,
I feel like it. Like
Yeah.
my identity for 5 years or whatever was just teacher. Like I'm this person that, you know, is interacting with the youth of the community and like talking about science, and you know, that was it. And I'm talking to this teacher and I feel like, oh, this is like years ago, but no, this was, you know, this was 2020.
Well, we ran into one of your old coworkers
Yeah.
at lunch yesterday.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
You didn't say that part.
I didn't. So we ran into the teacher, and we're talking to her, and I'm like, teaching was so long ago, but no, it was 2020. That was just last year.
Yeah. You taught for part of the pandemic, which
Yeah, I did.
we forget. You know.
I did, and I think the pandemic kind of actually is what pushed me into this direction, I guess. Like that, and like I got my degree, my master's degree. Like I had these opportunities. Like I don't know, it just felt like the right time, I guess. But now I'm in this reality where I'm not a teacher, and not only that, but like I'm living in Portland, then I'm not in Portland. I'm back in Albuquerque. Like it just, I'm dizzy. Like my view is just like I'm dizzy.
It's weird because we left with one thing feeling familiar, and we came back and there's a bunch of these familiar things in place, but everything is vastly different, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's an adjustment period for sure. Our kids are pretty happy. They seem content and happy, and I've tried really hard this summer with Lorenzo being gone so much to like really figure out like a routine that works for our family. Like, I think that's the hardest thing for me is like, I like doing fun things. I want to do fun things with my kids, and I wanted it to be like a really fun summer. But the truth is, like, I have really had to work as a mom to like maintain this like sense of like control and routine for my kids because Lorenzo's been gone. So that's been challenging for me because I know how things have looked in the past, and I know what needs to be done now, and it's interesting because I've had to sort of like put my big girl pants on and be like, okay, like let's get our shit together for real. Like no more of this like disorganization. Like we really need to figure this out. And we did do some fun things, like the kids and I. Like we drove to Denver and saw friends, and that was fun. It was like a little mini road trip for us while Lorenzo was gone, just to sort of break up the time and the monotony and give them something to look forward to. And then I joined the Jewish Community Center in Albuquerque. Shout out. Because they have a gym and they have a pool. And it's nice because I can take the kids to the pool like any day I want. And it's open year round. And so it's like something for them to do that's fun, but it's still within our routine. And so that's been the struggle over here, is like just trying to get our, life to have some kind of rhythm that we can all maintain and live within and still feel okay at the end of the day.
Yeah. I don't know. A lot of that.
It's tough.
Yeah. And a lot of this like conversation like we've already had on another podcast that was lost completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been really hard. And I've been completely just absent, just in a different city. Working really long hours and feeling like I'm helpless and like trying to be part of my own family. It's been a really, really tough summer, I guess, in that regard. Like I, I'm the type of person, I don't like to be hands off. I want to be involved. I want to be a part of like every part of my kids' lives, and I want to be present. And we were talking about this, like, I don't want to be like help. I want to be a part of just the whole picture. Mm-hmm. And I was telling you, like, to say like I'm helping means that I'm not a part of the equation, like a main part of the equation. That means I'm just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't want to devalue that. I just think, at this point right now with our situation, like you can't be all in, and that's okay. It's not your fault.
Well, right now I'm here.
Yeah.
You know?
I just think for our kids, we need to figure out a way that makes it consistent either way, like whether you're here or not, because
no, I agree.
It's been really hard.
I agree. And if we really want to be completely honest, like, part of the reason why I'm doing this is so that we can pay off like crap tons of debt from like student loans and also
student loans. Yeah, no joke.
Because I mean, we're in our late 30s, and someday we want to buy a freaking house. Like, it's like that.
Also, like, Biden, can you just like forgive them, or just like make it so that we can like at least qualify for a house? That'd be great. Thanks so much.
He listens to the podcast.
I know he does. Big fan. Fan.
So, I mean, I don't want to have like a pity party or whatever it is, but like, one of the things that we've been striving for is to buy a damn house, mm-hmm. and to have a place for our kids to grow up and live.
It feels, I mean, and part of that is decisions we've made. Like, if we're being honest, like, part of that is decisions we've made. We've owned a house at one point, and, and we made some choices. But I also think that, like, our generation, like, it has been extremely difficult for us to find stability in certain areas. We've lived through a recession. Most of us were graduating college during the recession, which was not helpful. We've lived through COVID. We've had a bunch of issues. You've lived through like the housing like balloon where everybody was getting loans everywhere, and then everybody defaulted on their loans, and it was just like now they don't want to lend to anybody.
The Great Recession.
It's just frustrating because there are some of us that are actually trying, and it just feels like there's always some kind of red tape, and like it doesn't matter what we do.
Yeah.
And I know hopefully that will change.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating nonetheless.
I'm not the type of person to, I don't know. I think I do have a lot of grit. I don't give up on things. I just keep going. But it can feel really frustrating too sometimes. Like when I stop and like and I've had a lot of time to think because I'm by myself. And in the mornings, it's quiet.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just like, I wish, because I'm on the opposite end of that where I'm like, I would love some time alone.
Well, I'm going to tell you, like, the first couple of days, I'm like, wow, this is a little bit nice. I feel super guilty for this. Like, I'm enjoying coffee, sitting in this hotel room, and, like, the kids aren't fighting. Like, it's not chaotic. I'm going to tell you, like, the guilt is high. The guilt level is super high.
I don't want you to feel guilty. Just enjoy it,
believe me, I feel.
You can't help it. Like,
I feel guilty out of my mind. Like,
well, stop.
No,
because it's not your choice.
But I can't help it. Like, I feel guilty out of my mind when I was sitting in that hotel room and like drinking coffee, and I knew that you were at home wrangling kids, and I knew that there was probably some meltdown from a child. So yeah, I felt guilty.
The good news is they're going to school next week.
But then, like a week in, it's quiet, and I no longer. I got to this point where I'm just like, I miss my freaking kids. Like, I want it to be crazy. I want Luke to, come up to me and tell me some random fact, or I want, Riley and Juliet to be like here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It got to the point where I didn't like it anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I had the guilt still because I wasn't able to be home to help. And there it is again, help. I'm not a helper, but like, go ahead.
I think the hardest part of being in my spot without you here is like I didn't sign up to be like a military wife. Like, that's not for me. And that's what it feels like. I mean, okay. Yeah. Some people are going to get mad at me. Yes, I realize that military people are out risking their lives. Also their choice. I'm not going to make this political, but the point is, I didn't sign up for a lifestyle that would make it this way.
Maybe we did though.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also like I just this is really hard for me, and it's frustrating because we're home. We have support systems, but there's simple things that when you're doing it by yourself get overlooked, like the fact that for some reason when your spouse is gone, all of your children want to crawl into bed with you. All of them, even if they've never done this before. You know, like all of our kids usually sleep through the night in their own beds, but when Lorenzo's gone, it's like they take turns.
And we're on the opposite end. Like I would love to have a child come up into my bed after the third week sleeping on my own, just like in a hotel room.
But
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that contributes to me as being the only adult, and I have broken sleep, and I'm exhausted. I'm always tired, and like that's the hard part. Is I felt like I was so behind on sleep because every night I was being woken up like 2 to 3 times by different children crawling into bed, or I'm scared, or you know, whatever. And they don't do that when you're here, but when you're gone, they do that. And like, you know, I try to like ask my parents or your parents for help. Like, hey, could you take the kids for a night? I'm exhausted. And like, you would hope that like being around support systems, they would do that, but there really wasn't a lot of that. And it, like at all. And so there was a point where I just felt like I was like dragging on and I was just barely coherent, and it was really tough.
What was I talking about before this? I forgot.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks. Like all of this is just, it sucks. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say.
You know what? I think we need to stop bitching because we got what we wanted.
Yeah.
And so like maybe we just need to realize this is part of the territory.
And that's what I was saying. Like I am in this situation because I want to like get to this point where I can settle down and like have a home for my kids to grow up in. It's not what I had pictured.
Is it ever though?
I think the like fantasy like thing for a lot of parents is for me, I guess at least I have when I first met you and I pictured like you're growing up in Lake Oswego, where you have these neighbors that you're just like friends with, and like, oh yeah, the so-and-sos and the so-and-sos, and they had kids, and like we just like wandered around the neighborhood, and it was so great. And I remember visiting Portland with you, one of the first times we went to Portland, and you're just like, hey, let's go drive around my neighborhood in Lake Oswego and just kind of check things out. And I remember driving around there, and I'm like, I felt like this deep sadness because like I grew up in fucking Moriarty, in the middle of the desert, in a, I mean, you know what I mean? Like in poverty. And I remember driving around this area and I'm like, I want this for my kids. I want my kids to have like this beautiful, like forested area and like friends who they can just like ride their bikes and then have to worry about people running their asses over. And, you know, pizza parties and like soccer games and like, oh yeah, your dad coaches your soccer team and like all this other stuff. It was like this picture perfect sort of reality, and it was so far alien to like even my line of thinking.
But the thing you need to understand though is like you don't just like fall into that. You build that. Like you build that for your family, and you build that for yourself, and you build that for your kids.
Of course.
Like it doesn't matter what neighborhood you live in, like you make that.
Of course. But
it's not like just because I lived in Lake Oswego, like it was going to be like that. Like you have to put in the time and the effort to get to know your
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like that's this picture perfect like reality that I wanted for my kids. And I mean, I definitely didn't have that. You had that. And I wanted that for my kids. And now, you know, we're renting. We're still trying to work towards that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm tired of the pity party. Like,
there's no pity party. That's what I'm telling you. Is like I have this grit and determination. Like I want to do this. Like look at me. I'm starting over my career at the end of like my 30s, because I still want that. So I don't know.
I just think that I don't know. I think our generation has been fed a lot of bullshit, and I also think that like we've been taught to believe certain things exist or certain things are attainable that aren't. And so you have to reframe what that looks like now because I don't think that the ideal neighborhood exists anymore. I sound like an old person. Back in the good old days. I think that you have to make that for yourself, and you also have to decide what that looks like for you and yours. Like, your ideal situation is going to look different than somebody else's. And, sorry, there's like something...
Bugs all over.
Get off me. And I think we are doing a good job of giving our children, A, life experiences, B, letting them see the world and spread their wings. Like, I was explaining to our kids that, like, when we were driving and we were in Portland and you were working one day, I took them to the coast with my friend Tippy because she came to visit from Atlanta. And we were driving to the coast and I was explaining to my kids, like, you guys are so lucky because you guys get to see a lot of different ways that people live. Like, you guys get to see how people live in different places. You've lived in different places. You get to see the country. Like, when we drove out to Portland, you guys get to see a lot more than a lot of other people. And, like, our kids are very lucky that they get to experience life and see different perspectives. Like, that's something that, honestly, like, you and I have in common. Where we grew up, we didn't get to see a lot of the different ways that people lived. Like, Lake Oswego is a fucking bubble. It's a very white bubble. There's a lot of privilege. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of white people. And there's not a lot of diversity.
Sundown town.
It was at one time, which is really sad. And again, they don't even teach that history to you in school, which is really effed up. But that's a different conversation for a different time.
And then I was in my bubble. Up until adulthood, which is bonkers to me.
But that's
like,
what I'm saying.
That's why I was... No, like...
I think that's the best gift you can give your kids, though, is, like, perspective. Like, our kids have something that we never had as children.
Yeah, for sure. I want them to know... Yeah, for sure. Just to have, like a wide-angled worldview. Because on both ends, like, it's not a good thing. Sometimes... I have to stop myself sometimes because, like, if I'm in a situation where I see people with wealth and maybe they're not even trying to, like, flaunt it, but you see a lot of that in the Pacific Northwest, which is, like, totally foreign in Albuquerque and New Mexico. You don't see that shit here.
It's a rich area. There's a lot of money going in and out of the Pacific Northwest for sure.
And that sort of just makes me mad. Like, when we were driving through Lake Oswego and you're like, oh yeah, this house... just a regular house is $500,000, and like, we go to these shops or we go to a brewery, and like, people are just there enjoying themselves, having a good time.
Because they have excess money that they can just blow on whatever, and no big thing.
Or if you go to a trendy coffee shop in Portland, and you have these young professionals, and they're dressed really well, and they have whatever.
They're a marketing agent for a like startup T-shirt company, and they're making $180,000 a year, and they're working from their laptop.
Yeah, I mean, it just. Maybe there's some envy, maybe there's some things like I have to reflect on and kind of check myself or whatever, but like just to kind of imagine that there's people with this amount of wealth and access, and like I grew up on a dirt road in Moriarty, like I don't know, it just like it makes me mad.
No, I can relate to that a little. Yeah. I was at Goodwill here in Albuquerque the other day. This is a stupid example, but it's the only one I've got right now. So in Portland, you go to Goodwill and there's like nice things. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just stuff that people had extra or excess and they just didn't want and they got rid of, right? You can get like a really nice, like I got a Pottery Barn comforter there for like $5. I don't know if that means anything to anybody that's listening to this, but you can Google like how much those actually are.
What, a Pottery Barn?
Like a duvet.
Okay.
Oh my God, I said duvet. No, like there's nice things at Goodwill in Portland. Like all the Goodwills, they have nice things. It's like a problem because you can get really nice things for like.
It's a problem.
It's a problem for me. And you can find nice things and you don't have to pay a lot of money, and they're out there because people have so much excess that they just get rid of these nice things. Like even if they're not broken, in New Mexico, it's very poor. If you go to Goodwill, there's like nothing there that's really nice because people here and people, when you live in a place that's poor, people tend to use things until they wear out or they break. They don't get rid of them when they're brand new. There's not like...
Well, I don't think Albuquerque is completely poor.
I mean, not completely, but...
I think we're painting this picture for Albuquerque that's like...
All I'm saying is you notice the gap when you go somewhere where like things go to charity.
Yeah.
In New Mexico, usually those things are broken. There's a stain on them. There's something wrong with them, and that's why they got rid of them. In Portland, it's just like there's so much of it that it's just like there for the taking. And people are giving away free stuff all the time, and it's nice and it's good. And here it's like that
like
just doesn't happen.
On the Nextdoor app and on Facebook or whatever.
Right. We got like an antique desk for like free in Portland, and it's beautiful. Just because we could come pick it up, they gave it to us.
Yeah.
And here it's like it just feels like there's not as much excess, and so those things are more valued, and people don't just give them away for free.
Right.
And so there's a shift in mindset that has to happen coming back here that's a little different.
Right. Yeah. So bringing it back to like our kids, like having a wide scope, like I think it's definitely, you're right. It's a plus. Like I would love to have my kids have like long life childhood friendships like you. Like
They do.
No, like, you know what I mean? Like having, like your parents lived in a neighborhood where that was possible, where you went to school with somebody from kindergarten through high school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you were ripped out of your roots at your sophomore year of high school. That's why it was so hard for you, because you had these lifelong friendships.
Probably,
but for Luke,
it's also a good thing.
For Luke, like he's been to 3 different elementary schools, right? Mm-hmm. Or 4 now. 4. That's hard for me to deal with. Like I want, like you went to the same elementary school with your kids, and you went to the same middle school. Like our kids.
But here's the thing. It's hard for us to think of because that wasn't the experience we had. But our kids are well-rounded, and he doesn't have anything to compare that to. And he's okay. No. He's a good kid, and he's rounded, and he's able to make friends, and he's fine. He's okay.
Yeah, I know.
And he's not expecting, like, we haven't set up the expectation that he's going to be at the same school every year.
I think
and that's an us expectation, but that's not a him expectation.
I think I just have this standard that's been like ingrained into my brain.
Change your standards.
Go ahead. I have this expectation that's been ingrained into my everything, and then it's you too, because I know you want to own a house.
I do, but I mean, that's not the be all end all of success. I do. It'd be great. Like, I just want to give my kids that, but at the same time, I know that they're going to have a good childhood regardless of where we sleep at night.
Yeah. And I think the most important thing too is like to focus on the now. Right. I want to show my sons and my daughter like as much love. I want to be as present as I possibly can be, like in the now. Mm-hmm. Like right now, yeah, we're renting this house, but I need to project that to my kids that this is not like less than what we want.
Right.
I want to project to my kids that we are grateful for where we are right now. Because like we were saying in the beginning of this recording, we are enjoying this place right now. I feel like this place, even though it's like one of the smallest places we've been in since we've been in family, I feel like this place is more home than a lot of the places we've lived. I think even since kids, like the house we owned never really felt like home. We didn't really feel safe there. No. It was in a neighborhood that was like had a lot of foot traffic. There was a lot of stuff. I
never rest easy there. I always felt on edge and on guard.
I always had this like backup plan, like what I was going to do if I heard like a window break. Mm-hmm. Because it was like the neighborhood was just not great.
No, that was a possible scenario. I mean, there were like carjackings down the street one year. There was like 2.
So I never felt like home.
Yeah.
It was just, and you found needles in your car seat.
Well, somebody ditched a backpack full of drugs and needles in our backyard through an alley. They threw it over the fence, and I'm like, well, good thing I found this and not my kid. And then somebody shot up in my car. They broke into my car and shot up in there and left all of their crap on the seat.
Right. I mean, it had a big yard and all this other stuff, but like I never felt like it was home. And that's when like the dreams of Portland started popping up, I think. So we put our house on the market, and then that didn't work out. And then I got my teaching license in Portland. Like I don't need to go through everything, but like every house that we've been to, every house that we've been in, like has never really felt like home.
We started this podcast at that house.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so if you want to go back and listen to some of those, like, whatever.
Lots of sirens in those ones.
I mean, I don't know, airplanes mostly, and a creaky bench. But this house, even though it's smaller square footage wise, like I feel like it's more home.
I agree. No, and it's interesting because this house actually doesn't have a garage. We had to get rid of a lot of stuff when we moved back, and that's fine. Like, I feel like at this point in my life, stuff is just weighing us down. I don't want more stuff. Like, I don't want more things to weigh me down. Like, I want experiences, and I want our kids to realize that less kind of is more. Like, it's not how much things you have, it's like the quality of the things you have and the memories you make. You know, the other day we had some friends over, and these friends were our old neighbors at our house in Albuquerque before we moved to Portland. Yeah. And that I loved. We became friends with them. They lived across the street. We had a great relationship. We're still friends with them. Our kids are friends. Later today, we're going to ballet with their daughter. So my daughter's going to ballet with their daughter. But we had them over for dinner, and we put a projector movie up in the backyard here. And like everybody came out, we hung out on the grass that we planted. We watched a projector movie. It was really nice to
just fire pit.
Yeah, we have a fire pit, so we roasted marshmallows. Like, that's the kind of childhood I want my kids to have. Like, that's what they're going to remember, like, when they're older. They're going to remember that time their friends came over and we watched a projector movie in the backyard. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, but we were renting at that time. Like, that's not important to them.
No.
They're going to think, like, it was so cool that my friends got to come over and hang out in my backyard, and I have these giant sunflowers that my family planted, and, like that's what they're going to think about, you know?
Yeah, 100%. So I think being in the now is like, that's my mantra. I'm going to think about that. I don't have to think about what's around the corner. I don't have to think about like what I don't have. I can think about like right now, I live in a place that I enjoy, that I want to be in. And what's really huge for me right now is like my rent is paid, my kids are fed. Like, that's important.
Well, I think, yeah, like you're saying, be in the now, be present, be here now. And also, like, less is more. Like, honestly, I feel like that's, for me, that's kind of the mantra I've been going with, is like less is more.
Yeah. And as long as you don't stop growing, I think that's important too. Like, we've been in periods, and I mean, in full honestly, like, we're going to be honest, me and you're going to be honest, but like, there have been periods of time when there has been no growth for us personally and like for our marriage. And those are hard periods to go through.
Being stagnant is probably the most suffocating thing for your marriage and for your family, because when you stop growing as a person, you just become bitter and angry and just kind of like complacent. And I don't ever want to be complacent. I always want to be doing something to like make myself a better human or a more enlightened human, or, you know, I think there's so many opportunities. You just have to find one.
Yeah. I think you just got to keep looking and continue to be curious. And I think that's where we got to with like the Enneagram and stuff, like trying to understand each other and kind of open up our scope. But yeah, there's been go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, it's been challenging this year. And on top of that, like, I'm getting these crazy headaches, which are nuts.
If you guys have any solutions for cluster headaches, we will take them.
Who are you talking to?
Anybody with help.
Oh.
We're on a podcast, and you say, like, who are you talking to?
I know.
Well, I mean, whoever's listening, obviously.
It's a fly on the wall.
So
I found this website saying that keto diets can help. I'm going to try that, I guess. I also went to the doctor. They gave me some medication it's like a nasal spray thing. I don't know.
You read on a Reddit, like subreddit, that Red Bull can help, and
chugging
you've been
a Red
trying
Bull.
that, and it's been sort of helping, I guess. Yeah, cluster headaches are weird because they just kind of come out of nowhere. They last for months or weeks, and then they go away for a while, and it's just like there's no rhyme or reason to it. They just show up. Yeah. So we're really hoping that subsides soon. It's been hard. So I know for me, I'm taking a year off of like actively pursuing a job or anything like really monumental. And that's actually been hard. I know that it doesn't, I mean, I know it sounds stupid to say it like that. Oh, it's so hard that I'm taking a year off. Like, I get that it's a privilege. I get that not everybody has that luxury, and I understand that, and I'm grateful that I am able to do this. But I've been trying to just think about like self-growth and self-improvement, and like, I feel like I really need to focus on my adult self and where I am right now and what I want to do with the next part of my life and future. And now that all of my kids are in school, I can kind of start to cultivate that a little bit. And actually, it's probably good that I didn't take a job, considering the fact that Schmamazon keeps sending you random places. Because otherwise, that would be a real shit show.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, I know I've mentioned this on past podcasts, but like, you know, I was diagnosed with ADHD this year, and I feel like I'm still trying to kind of gauge that and get a handle on that and how that affects my day-to-day functioning now that I'm aware. You can always be more self-aware, so I'm working on that. I also, you know, our son has ADHD, and so I have to think about how it affects me, how it affects him, and how it affects the way we both function together, which is really hard sometimes. But I'm really taking this time to sort of like cultivate myself as an individual and really get back to like, okay, who am I? What do I want? Where am I going? What do I want in the next 5 years?
That's a good thing.
So I haven't really had any time since the kids were born to sit and actually think about that.
Yeah. Because I think when you're dealing with like the level of distraction that you have, you could be clouded.
Yeah.
And you can be disoriented and you can forget where you are in life. And like, then you're just getting to this point where you're just trying to survive. Right. And there's no rhyme or reason or like steps for like any sort of path. You're just splashing in the middle of this ocean and you're trying to figure out like what's going on. But like, I think that's a good thing. I think both of us have been in that sort of like reality.
I think also when you're splashing in that ocean, any direction that's presented to you seems like a good idea because you're just looking for some direction, but it may not be the right direction. So you're like grasping at anything coming your way because you just need something. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I've always been told, like, you don't take the first opportunity that comes at you. You have to think about it. Just because it's presenting itself, like just because a door presents itself doesn't mean you have to walk through it. Yeah. And I've always kind of done that. Like, it's like, oh, this must be the door. Guess I'll walk through it, even if it's not the right one. And I want to really think about that.
Well,
you know?
I mean, also, I think that's a luxury to be able to be picky.
Well, I just said that. It's a privilege, and I understand. Yeah. I understand that I'm in a position that not like a lot of people aren't, and I get that.
No, like, I'm just saying, like, for me, like, I haven't had a lot of opportunities present themselves, and for careers, like, I don't feel like I can be picky because there are there are adults.
There's kids.
There are people who are like much younger than me, who are way more qualified than me, and they can probably be picky, but me, I don't know. Like, sometimes I feel like I don't have that much value. Like, I don't know.
That's not true. No, I think that we are at a point where we are allowed to be picky. But I also think, you know, I think back on those times where we were young with, you know, kids, and we were poor and we didn't have a chance to be picky. We had to literally take the opportunities that were presented because, like you said, we were just surviving. We were trying to provide for our kids. We were trying to, you know, make sure everything was okay. And so it was like we didn't have the choice to be picky because we just had to, you know, get a job and pay our bills and hope that there was something left over. And that's a hard place to be in. And we've been there before, and it's taken a long time to get to this point. You know, it's taken a long time to get to this point where we can actually sit and make an informed decision, not just one that's going to pay the bills. Right. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, me too.
And that's growth. Mm-hmm. So I'd say we've grown.
Yeah, I think so too. And I have a stove in my...
Bonus?
in my home that is magnificent. I love this stove. It's got awesome burners, and... I
really did not know you were going to say that. I was not expecting you to say this, and I didn't know you felt this way about our stove.
I do. I love this stove. I love our kitchen, actually.
Yeah.
All right, so what are you listening to?
Oh, yeah. That.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I'm listening to a podcast right now. It's a Wondery podcast. You know, we always say, like, everything Wondery touches is gold. It's true. It's called Spy Affair. It is about a lady who was arrested for being a spy for Russia during the Trump campaign. Very interesting. It talks a lot about her and the NRA and political agendas and motives. It's just a very interesting podcast. It's called Spy Affair. And it's a Wondery podcast, and you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. Oh my gosh, there's my podcaster thing happening. I've also been listening to Audible a lot. I've gone through several books. I just finished The Devil's Highway, which I've read before, but I wanted to hear the audiobook because it's narrated by the actual author. Super good. If you're looking for a book that is like just deep cutting, it's about immigrants coming across the Sonoran Desert to Arizona and people coming in illegally into the country and why, like the reasons why they're coming and where they're coming from, and how the U.S. and how the countries in Mexico states in Mexico are handling the situation. And it's a lot about human rights and ethics. And it's graphic. There's some graphic stuff in there. It's by Luis Alberto Urrea. It's really good. I don't want to give it away, but it's a really good book, and it's narrated by him, and he does a fantastic job. And it's a very intense read, but it's really good. What are you doing?
I'm preparing for my... What are you listening to?
Okay.
So, go ahead.
I also listened to the podcast, and it's only on Audible, so that's kind of crazy. But it's called The First Wife, and it's about John Meehan, like Dirty John. That podcast. It's about his first wife, Tanya, and their relationship, and kind of just going more in depth with his bullshittery, if you will. Really interesting podcast. Also, it's called The First Wife. John Meehan's Reign of Terror, I believe, is the. John Meehan's Reign of Terror, The First Wife. It's only from Audible, so. And then the last thing I'm listening to is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. It's a book. She's a therapist. She talks about being a therapist and how she goes to therapy and just like different nuances within that world, and kind of there's a lot of humor and storytelling and just sort of anecdotal stuff, but it's a good listen. And then music. My God, I'm just gonna keep going here.
Keep going.
Sorry, I'm really sorry. You seem really annoyed with me.
I am not annoyed.
All right. I'm just on a roll here. So a couple songs I'm going to throw your way. Breathe by Weather Maps. Great song. I've been listening to a song called Louise by TV Girl. Very old-timey, sort of like French noir feel. It's kind of neat. Where'd All the Time Go by Dr. Dog. I've been listening to this band called Mariachi El Bronx. They're like a mariachi band from New York. The song is Sleepwalking. Really good. I've been listening to the band Palace. There's a song called So Long Forever you can check out. And finally, in homage to our Michael Cera Sundays, I have been listening to Michael Cera. He makes music, actually. There's a song called Clay Pigeons. He's very folky. Reminds me a lot of Bob Dylan, kind of. Michael Cera, what up? Congratulations on your music career. Who knew?
Yeah.
He's actually very talented, so.
Cool.
Yeah. That's it.
All right. Is it my turn?
Yeah, what are you listening to?
So, I have been listening to I feel like forever, the Dune. Dune. D-U.
The Doom.
I just looked up the video game Doom, and I think that was in my head. But Dune, the sci-fi novel from like a long time ago, I've been listening to that on Audible, and it is very lengthy. So that has been interesting. I've been listening to that. I started listening to a podcast called Love Period, the Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis. She is a pastor in the New York City area. She has a book that's coming out that I want to pre-order, but I don't really know much about her work yet, but what I've heard so far, I like, and I want to kind of grow in that direction, I guess. But the podcast, a couple episodes I've listened to called Love Period with the Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis has been really good. And I think that's all I've been listening to. Those two podcasts. I tried to listen to the Bad Christian podcast like a couple days ago. And the Bad
Couldn't
Christian
do it, huh?
podcast, I started, that's what got me into podcasting. Back in like 2000, I want to say 14 or 2015, they started that podcast, and it was really good. It was like genuine, like real truthful conversation about, being brought up in an evangelical sort of like bubble and like expanding out of that and just being self-aware and like, all of that was just really great. But then it just turned into like dick and fart jokes. That's it.
As most male groups do at some point.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Just
those first episodes were dick and fart jokes, and then also like some real truthful conversation. Now,
dick and fart jokes and real truthful conversation. That should be their like tagline. Sorry. Okay.
yeah. But I tried listening to some episodes, or an episode, like a couple days ago, and I just was not having it. As far as music is concerned, I'm, like you said a couple days ago, like you're in a music slump. I feel like I'm there too sometimes. I've been trying to like broaden my musical taste, I guess. So I started listening to a little bit of J. Cole.
I like J. Cole.
Yeah. So that's about where I'm at. I haven't really had a chance to like enjoy a lot of art, which I want to do more. We've been watching Schmigadoon.
This is like the perfect show that combines like humor. It's cheesy. It's an easy watch. You don't have to be super like mentally invested, but it's funny. I hate musicals, so I feel a very soft spot in my heart for the show because it's based around musicals, but it's like comical. Because I hate musicals, so it's
Wait,
perfect.
so that doesn't make sense to me. You hate musicals, but
Well, they poke fun at musicals. It's like a satire of like every musical ever made, and that's what's funny to me.
It's a full blown musical though.
But the songs are like
they're good,
funny.
Yeah, and they're funny.
I like the sarcasm and I like the satire behind it, and I like Cecily Strong a lot, and I like
she's funny.
Oh my god,
the other actor.
My brain, Key and Peele. Oh my god, I can't think right now.
Is it Jordan Peele or is it the other guy?
I don't know. So my brain hurts, but yeah, it's funny. It's worth a watch. Schmigadoon is hilarious. We've also been watching. Is it People of Earth?
Yeah, we started like the first 4 episodes,
which is like another SNL alum. It has Anna Gasteyer in it.
The guy from The Daily Show.
Yeah, it's funny. Like,
I'm not good with names.
I know, me either. I'm like, but it has more SNL people. It also has Badger from Breaking Bad, which, whoop whoop. I love him. Dude, I love him so much. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like mindless but funny stuff, because I feel like that's just where we're at in our life. We can't commit to like anything serious. I finished A Handmaid's Tale, and it was just so heavy. I actually also finished the book too on Audible. But both, like the book and the show, were just like so heavy. I was like, I don't know. I kind of need a break from this heavy shit for a while. So.
Yeah. And then I'm with you on that. When I was in Spokane, I watched a couple of like heavy shows and found myself weeping like a baby in yeah. So. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I wanted to shout out a couple of YouTube channels too, if that's okay. Because that's what I've been watching. I watch Kendall Ray. She does a lot of true crime. She does true crime analysis. So if that's your thing, she's really good at... she kind of narrates the crime, narrates the scenario. She's very thorough. I really enjoy her channel. So Kendall Ray, really good. She actually did coverage on a friend of mine's case. My friend Eric, she covered his case. His younger brother was, speaking of heavy, and I'm sorry, his younger brother was murdered. And so she covered that case, and she did a really good job of covering all the information really accurately and really well. So I wanted to shout out that channel. I also watched one called Soft White Underbelly. This guy is like a video documentarian. He just videos people from different walks of life and marginalized communities, kind of like interviews them and just talks with them, and it's kind of like People of New York style, but it's on camera. And then I watched Curtis Connor and you can shut your mouth if you think I'm an idiot. It's fine. Curtis Connor is like my guilty pleasure podcast channel. Yeah, I love Curtis Connor. He's funny as shit. So, all right.
Awesome. Sorry. That's okay.
I'm a proud resident of Curtis Town.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm 37, everybody. God. Lorenzo's like rolling his eyes like, oh my dear Jesus, cut it off, shut it down.
That's okay. I watched Action Lab, and if you ever watch that YouTube channel,
I legit don't even know what that is.
It's this guy who gets really super excited about different like experiments and like scientific phenomenon. Like he's
like your Curtis Connor?
I guess so. I don't know
who
Curtis Connor is.
Member of Action Town?
He doesn't talk about Action Town, but like
you are.
I mean, maybe.
You're
no, I'm not like
Action Town.
I've always just enjoyed his channel. He's very much a nerdy just dude who does experiments, and he gets overly excited about them. Like, I'll play it for you later, okay, and you're gonna like be like, what is this guy's problem? But I think he's great.
Sweet.
Anyways, that's been it for us. Hope you have a wonderful wonderful rest of your day. But I have a hard time opening and closing podcasts. Like,
shut it down, Lorenzo.
I know.
Have a good day, guys. We're off to ballet in a ghost town, so we'll see you later.
Peace.